Hi everybody, this is the last video in a series about platform framing. And we're going to tie together everything that you've already learned in the last couple of videos by looking at a specific example. So let's get started. So take a look at this example and remember that you can always look at the PDF lecture notes that I've provided for you if you want to zoom in, look closer, pause, because I know that on this video you won't be able to, for example, read the words on this construction detail. So on the left, we have a construction detail as would be drawn in a construction set. And on the right, we have kind of a three-dimensional view of the same piece, so we can compare the two. Right? These are the same wall in the same project. So let's start, as I like to do, at the bottom and take a look at this foundation. We can see that there is a footing. This is a footing right here. And here is the foundation wall. In this case, for this project, the footing is poured concrete and the foundation wall is concrete masonry units, concrete blocks. So looking on this side, we see the footing right here, and we see the foundation wall. Moving up in the world, here we have our pressure treated sill plate and the anchor bolt coming through. On the right hand side, we see the sill plate. And it's going to go back in here where you can't see it, but we're seeing just the cut edge of it right there. And in this particular view, we can't see the anchor bolt. Okay. Now let's move into the floor system. We have right here our floor joists. That's this piece. And here is the edge joist. Looking at our three-dimensional view, here's the floor joist coming in and the edge joist. There is your plywood subfloor. And built on top of that, see this sole plate right here, is your wall system. Okay. In this case, we're also showing the finish floor. Right here is a hardwood floor system. Finish floor. This little bit right there, that's going to be the baseboard trim. So looking at our three-dimensional view, you can see that here's the plywood subfloor right there. And another layer on top of it is our hardwood flooring. So our flooring. This tiny little bit right there, that's going to be that baseboard trim. Let's talk about the wall system next. This is a little bit more complicated wall than I showed you in the last couple of videos. And that's because it's kind of got two layers to it. Here is the structural wall. This piece right here is the structural wall. And then outside of that is a layer of brick veneer. Okay, the brick veneer is not the structural system in this case. The weight of, for example, the roof is not resting on that brick. Pretty much all that brick is doing is holding up its own self. All right. So here is our wall right there. This little S-shaped back and forth symbol is showing the insulation in that cavity of the wall. Okay. So right here, we're seeing the wall, and that's the studs going vertically. On the exterior, so there's a small gap. Here's our sheathing, which is says it's a 1/2-inch fiberboard right there. Here's our exterior sheathing. Then there's a little air gap, and then there's a layer of brick veneer. So take a look over here. Here's that sheathing, the wall sheathing. Here's the little air gap, and here's our layer of brick veneer. And it's coming down all the way down to rest on an extra little ledge that was built for it on the foundation. Check that out. Okay, so moving up in our wall, we see we're cutting through a window. Look at that. All right, I'm going to talk more about how to frame doors and windows next week in our doors and windows section. Okay, so we're going to skip over that for today. Moving up in the wall, this right here is the header for that window. And here's a little gap. Beyond would be the wall studs beyond the window. So in this section over here that doesn't have window, this would just be straight studs behind there. At the top of the wall right here is our double top plate. And that is right here in our three-dimensional view. All right. The ceiling joists are going to come across right here. And remember this little S symbol in the construction drawing is showing the insulation that is laid in between each ceiling joist. So in the three-dimensional view, here's our ceiling joist. Attached to the bottom of that ceiling joist is the finish, our ceiling finish. That's probably a sheet of drywall, sheetrock right here. Oh, I don't believe I ever mentioned, but on the inside, the interior face of our wall right here is also our drywall or sheetrock. Okay. And finally, here is our roof rafter coming down. And it rests on that top plate. They actually make a little notch, a little cut in the rafter so that it will bear straight down and flat on that double top plate. Here it is right here. This piece is called the eave. Remember the eave kind of sticks over. So here's our rafter. Okay. And this piece is the soffit. If you'll remember in the vocabulary section, we couldn't see the soffit. This piece under the eave is the soffit. Here's our fascia right here. And on top of our roof rafters right here is the roof sheathing. This is a plywood sheathing. And on top of that sheathing would go the roofing felt or waterproof membrane and whatever roofing material, maybe shingles, that's not shown in this picture. So in our three-dimensional view, what we're seeing is that plywood sheathing right here. Okay, so this was kind of a three-dimensional view and a construction detail view of an entire framing system all the way from the foundation up through the floor, the wall, and the roof. And I hope it really helped you kind of tie all these concepts together and see how that they work together to form an entire home.